Sergey, I am so excited for this interview. I have been waiting to do this, and I just think you're amazing, and you have a message that the world it's such a message of hope and so much incredible work that you've done. So welcome to my podcast today.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to have you. Well, let's start by you telling my listeners, they've heard your bio, but tell them a little bit more about you and maybe what's not in your bio and why you do what you do, what motivates you.
Before I turned 43, I didn't have a passion in life. I was so jealous about my friends. Some of them love fishing, reading books, collecting postal stamps. I was born at the time when collecting postal stamps was kind of cool for Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. But before that, I was like from a really poor family, not from the middle of nowhere, but like from the end of nowhere.
From the end of nowhere.
Yeah. So my hometown with 15,000 people was closer to Japan across the sea in Pacific Ocean rather than to the regional capital. So that's how far I went there. So because I was from poor family, I was just working, full day and night until the age of 43. And then it's all started with small cholesterol story. They found my, high cholesterol level in my blood. And they said, well, Sergey, you need to take statins. And I said, I love this idea. Is it just 1 month thing, 2 month thing, or 3 month thing? And they said, no. You're going to get it every day till the end of your life. And well, this is where this whole thing started. And my first degree is chemical engineering. So I immediately realized how dangerous is just to put a chemical substance inside your body. It's like to live on the pills like until the rest of your life. Yeah. So my second degree is economics. So I quickly Googled, and apparently this statins was the second largest revenue for this big pharma company. So, and I started to change a lot in my life. And I said, well, let's experiment a little bit with the change in lifestyle. And I started to eat, more vegetables, go and walk, 10,000 steps a day, meditating, taking, enough of sleep. And it was kind of cool. And it produced amazing results, a lot of kilos. And I became much more happier version of myself. And I started to share this whole experience with people, and they kind of like it. And it's just a lot of demand inside ourselves for positive change. And I thought I find a way to respond to that. And then the other story why I'm here, that I'm a big believer in visualization, manifestation, and positive thinking and positive reframing. I think it's important. We've all been wired by Mother Nature to look for the negative stuff, to avoid risk, right? Because we will always live in, outside and with a lot of danger and risks around. And at one moment of time, I decided I'm going to live to 200 years. As I said, it's completely a responsible dream to have. The oldest person on earth, she was French. She died at the age of 122. But I thought, if I will wake up in the morning and I will have 3/4 of my life ahead of me, wouldn't it be like just amazing feeling?
Amazing.
And it changed my life. And, my mission now is to bring positive change to 1 billion people all around the world. Just bringing by affordable and accessible version of longevity. That's why I set up Longevity Vision Fund to support entrepreneurs who just building these longevity technologies. And good news, a lot of these technologies and apps is actually about meditation, about helping people with mental problems, with supporting psychologists and psychiatrists in their work with the patients who are in need of this particular support. So I love that. And obviously my life has changed. I have a passion, and I run on these batteries for the last 5 years. And I have another 152.
Oh, I love that. I love the way you say I have another 152. Well, I'm 56, so then I got another 144. So there you go.
Join the club.
There we go. Join the club. Now, this is fantastic. This is so exciting. Okay, there's a million things I want to unpack. So let's start at the top so people can understand the hugeness of your vision, but also the simplicity of your vision. Because what you really, if I understand you correctly, you're just wanting people to understand the ability to increase their length of life and health of their life so that they can be a healthy, happy human contributing to society. You mentioned in the intro there that you've started the Longevity Vision Fund, and you've got 2 degrees. You started in chemical engineering, also in economics, and now you've been managing for the past 20 years the fund, and that's called the Longevity Vision Fund, and you fund all kinds of things. So can you talk a little bit more about that as a good start, and then we can just unpack it from there?
Sure. So I was in investments for the last 20 years, and it always been all good industries like transportation and logistics, metals and mining, food retail, real estate, etc. So, but then when I found my passion in longevity, I kind of thought I can wear the same investment lenses in this field. So that's why I think it's been a year and a half ago when I set up Longevity Vision Fund, and it's been great because you cannot, it's just a great door opener. We are looking at 200 different longevity related companies a year. Wow. To invest only in 10 of them. So there's just amazing information flow. And I know a lot what is happening in the labs. So that's been beautiful. And I'm really proud of some of our investments. And let me share with you a couple of stories. So we invested in a company called Eco Imaging. It's a company which was earlier supported by Bold Capital, the fund of my dear friend Peter Diamandis, the founder of X Prize Foundation and Human Longevity and many other companies. So what this company does is they produce affordable and accessible version of ultrasound diagnostic device. It looks like a smartphone. Yeah. And remember, and it costs somewhere probably around $2,000 a piece. So if you go to hospital next door, your ultrasound machine starts from, well, probably $100,000 a piece. And it needs operator who will go through like 2 years of education and practice before he or she will be ready to operate this machine. So this Eco Imaging invented this beautiful device that can be used in Africa, in the poorest regions, where you do a scan. You shouldn't be super professional, but all scans go to cloud storage. Yeah. It's pre-analyzed by artificial intelligence, and then doctor or nurse, before they receive the scan, they also receive like advice from artificial intelligence algorithms saying, "Look here and there. This might be a risk here and there." So that's amazing, and it's obviously, and the cost of that is 25 to 50 times lower than what we have today. So that's just one example. And I'm a big fan of early diagnostic. Yeah. Because you probably remember the time when people were delaying the day when they knew whether they have cancer or not, because cancer was kiss of death. Yeah. Not anymore. In majority of cases, if you really good with early diagnostic of cancer, if you catch cancer at stage 1, your recovery rates can be as high as 93, as high as 100%. So the good news, so that's why we invest in affordable ultrasound diagnostic. That's why we invest in in a lot of different types of cancer diagnostic. So that's kind of one piece. Well, the other interesting piece, we just invested in the end of last year in a company called Genesis. And what they do, they're growing livers inside our bodies in the lymph nodes. Yeah, because if you look at liver transplantation surgery today in US, the cost of that is probably somewhere around $800,000. And and you actually need to wait for a month and sometimes for years for donor liver to arrive and be available for you. Yeah. That's a huge problem. Huge. So, what they do, they take the donor liver, they split it in 50 to 80 pieces. They use simple surgery to put it in your lymph node. And then in 3 to 6 months, the new liver is been grown to the size in your body. So that's also a lot of problem. And obviously democratize this whole kind of liver transplantation segment. So they start human trials. Yeah. This is super cool. And they start human trials in the end of this year or early next year. So it works for many types of animal testing that they've done. And I'm really hopeful that this is for humans as well. So there's a lot of hope and a lot of good things which our companies, the companies that we invested in through Longevity Vision Fund, do for the world. And this is before we're talking about visionary stuff like human avatars and
yeah, I want to get into all that. That's on your 3 levels. So this is amazing. And you also had another, I heard you talk about another, well, that's fine. You've done those 2 examples. Let's go to a little bit about your book that I know you're writing, and then we can come back to some of those, let's talk about the 3 horizons and those kind of things. So let's start with your book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young, that's coming out soon. Ish.
Yeah, soon. Yeah, I mean, if you know our publishing industry, they still operate in 20th century terms, not 21st. Yes. So writing a book is a huge exercise and pretty lengthy exercise. So the manuscript is ready. So that's a good news. So I have time before May next year to review it for pre-marketing, distribution, etc. So book going to be published in May next year. It's called The Science and Technology of Growing Young. Fantastic. Obviously to play a little bit with my name. And the reason why I kind of thought that I need to write this book is that when you go to the bookstore or you go to Amazon, there's 2 types of longevity books. One is like pure hard science. This is a beautiful type of book, but you need to be very well educated and very passionate to go through the whole kind of scientific terms. So that's one. Well, the other thing is just kind of one hypothesis book is like something is bad and it's explained in 200 or 300 pages. And it says, if like a celery juice, if you drink celery juice every morning, then you're going to be, cool and fine. So human body and mind is much more complex system, right? So there's no one silver bullet which works for our health and happiness. So I kind of thought, well, let me do longevity for everyone. And because of this, remember, I was explaining that we're looking at 200 different companies a year. And let me do it through technology lenses, through telling the stories of different entrepreneurs, different technologies, and sometimes the story from the labs that can support our ideas and excitement about what we see on the next horizon. So when we can break through this ultrasound barrier of 122 years and, go through the roof and, live much more healthy and happy years and, live to 120, 150, and sometimes to 200 years. It is in the future, but it's just so exciting to have an opportunity to explain it. So I'm very excited about the book. I'm very happy how it's coming out. And it's just amazing exercise. We're living in a world when our attention span is 8 seconds. Before they invented smartphone, our attention span was 15 seconds. To give you for comparison purposes, the fish in a bowl has 9 seconds attention span. So after inventing smartphones, Facebook and Instagrams, our attention span is actually lower than attention span of the goldfish in the bowl. So that's just crazy.
That's an eye opener, isn't it?
It is. So doing something in the course of 3 years, it's just amazing. And that's why I love this process. It's just a lot of time for reflection, putting outside and putting out the social media stuff and a lot of kind of day-to-day news, which hardwires us in a negative way, and doing something positive in the form of books. So I'm very excited about this.
Oh, well, first of all, congratulations. And I can't wait to read your book because I know it's going to be filled with information that not only will be enjoyable to read, but that we actually need, as human. And also the excitement of writing a book. I get it. I've just finished my 18th. So I know, and the excitement never goes away. And as you say, the process is very long, but it's worth it in the end. So I know it's going to make a huge impact on everyone. And we'll make sure that we keep those details available and let all our audience know when they can get their hands on it. But in the meantime, you have great information on your webpage and so on. But let's talk about let's start with those 3 horizons. I keep coming back to that because that really got my attention, because when we talk about longevity, it's such a big thing. And I know you've spoken to David Sinclair. I have interviewed him as well. And he's really incredible. But I love how you've organized longevity into these 3 channels. And I love your vision. So could you talk about that for a little bit?
Sure, let's do it. So the reason we invented the 3 horizons framework, because longevity, especially recently, became a pretty crowded and confusing space.
Yeah.
So as I say, today you need to do your stem cells injection urgently. And then tomorrow you read, well,
don't do it, you can get cancer.
Yeah, don't do it there. It's not FDA approved. You need to wait a little bit. So then today you read, you need to put butter in your coffee. And then tomorrow you read that, fat is not that great for your health, which I don't believe in, but,
exactly.
it's just a lot of people confused. And then the beauty of Three Horizons frameworks, which is what you can do today, what's going to be available tomorrow, and what is in a long-term future that you just need to be aware of, is very helpful, because every time you hear like piece of advice or piece of information on longevity or healthy lifestyle, you can put it in one of the three buckets. So bucket number one, the most boring one, I think it's most exciting one, because this is what we can do today and tomorrow with our health, is called Horizon 1. It is about 5 different things. So it's early diagnostic in form of annual medical checkup. This is super important. When I have my 30 seconds on longevity, I push people to do their the most comprehensive checkup every year.
Very good.
Because if you do early diagnostic of heart disease and cancer, you're very well served. It's just another 5, 10, and probably 15 years of your healthy life, by the way, added to your life. So that's super important. And then it's bad habits, obviously not smoking, diet, exercise, which is 10,000 steps a day, and then extra if you want, and then peace of mind, which is our favorite topic. We're going to discuss this more. So that's Horizon 1. There's more and more technology coming in Horizon 1. So for example, I'm a little bit technological geek. And I started to meditate through different means. If you ask me personally, I actually think that human being doesn't need any gadget to meditate or any application. We just sit in a calm place, and then you concentrate on your mantra or any other sound. But I started to meditate with Muse. You probably know this device, right?
Yeah, I know Muse.
So this is for the benefit of the audience. This device which gives you feedback in the form of sounds of nature. If you do a really bad job in meditating, you hear thunderstorms. But if you do
it's really
good
clever.
job in meditating, you see like birds singing, this little wind. So it's amazing.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
Horizon 1, what is available today, from early cancer diagnostic to peace of mind, like meditation apps or sleep tracker, etc. So then Horizon 2, and this is where we invest the most from Longevity Vision Fund perspective. These are technologies which are currently in development stage. They're going to be available to us in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And the typical technologies is genome therapy, gene editing, stem cells treatment, different nanorobots, AI-based diagnostic and drug discovery, smart hospitals, etc. They're not ready yet, and majority of them is not approved yet. They're at the early stage of the trials or development. But I'm so excited, and I'm pretty sure, they're going to be available to us in the next decade or so. So that's your Horizon 2.
Sorry, you talk about in the Horizon 2 about being able to go to a Walmart and get your primary care physician intervention and whatever. I like the way you describe that. So that's the future of medicine, not so complicated like it is now.
Yeah, so then, and actually before we move to Horizon 3, which is 25, 50 years from now, well, let's talk about Horizon 2. I think there's 2 important things to understand about this. So you can choose the strategies like, okay, Sergey, this is exciting. I'm okay for the next 10, 15 years. Let me just wait. I will not do anything for my health, including body and mental health right now. I'll just wait for longevity in the pill or any other intervention which is going to be invented. The problem is, by that moment, you're going to be already old. At least 10, 15 years older. So your body will be, there's a risk that your body or your mind will not be worth extending its own capacity. So that's why, as Ray Kurzweil, one of my favorite visionaries, said, you need to stay on the bridge. So this is your step number 1 for longevity. Make sure you're as healthy and as happy and possible in the next 10 years, and then you're going to be fine. So that's kind of important fact about Horizon 2. So that's one. The other important fact, and I'm actually personally very excited about this whole thing. I do believe that changes in Horizon 2, changes in the next 10 years will come not from the old players who will do the kind of new things, but will come from the new players, which will do new things. So it's from disruptors. So look what is happening in Google, Amazon, Apple. I do believe that the largest healthcare companies on earth is not going to be called by the name of your insurance provider or your hospital chain. It's going to be called Apple, Google and Amazon.
Wow.
Obviously there's a lot of disagreement about the role of these big monopolies.
Yes.
I haven't created them, so don't blame me for that. But as a small longevity enthusiast, right?
Yes.
I'm super happy that they're actually looking at healthcare space. So
yes,
Apple,
I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at Apple Watch, right?
Yeah.
This is your personalized healthcare device.
True.
It can do electrocardiogram today.
Yeah.
It can detect when you fall down in the street. It can call ambulance for you.
Fantastic.
And it can detect at least 5 different types of heart inefficiencies, etc.
Yeah.
So that's rather than counting your steps, which is also pretty important, motivating.
Yes.
It's just becoming your personalized healthcare devices. Or
fantastic.
What is happening with the wearables, which has been just released by Amazon. Or I was always, when I was talking about Apple Watch, I was always using Fitbit as an example.
Yes.
And people were giving me a hard time saying like, Sergey, Fitbit, it's just like, it's dead end. It's not going to happen. So, and then it was $2 billion that I think it was Google, which they paid for Fitbit. It just shows you how important this healthcare space for this big tech. So
Yeah,
this is the other important
healthcare and
fact
big
about
tech.
Horizon 2.
We need to see the benefit of healthcare and big tech.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah, conversions of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Horizon 3 is completely visionary. It's just human avatars. It's Internet of Body when you have a lot of sensors. This is your ability to change as many organs as possible and actually choose whether you're going to be robotic avatars or digital avatar, etc. To tell you the truth, I'm waiting for this in combination of excitement and fear. I'm a simple human being, right? I'm not really used to the world when our brain is integrated with artificial intelligence, similar to what Elon Musk showed us last week. And by the way, I thought Horizon 3 is like 25 years down the road. And then again, it's Elon Musk showing us he can do it with pigs, and he's probably going to be experimenting soon with human beings. It just shows you how exponential.
How exponential, how quickly it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. But otherwise, I think it's just exciting development which we have. And for my book, I've interviewed at least 3 different inventors of human avatars. And actually, I mean, if you ask my opinion, I was a great believer in robotic avatars. But funny enough, I do believe that creating digital version of ourselves in the virtual reality is much cheaper and more effective way for us to live longer, after our death.
Talk more about that. Can you explain? Because if you've interviewed 3 people in this space, what does that mean? Because for a lot of people hearing this now, it's one of those things that, back you even give that example in one of your interviews. We thought, I think it was your Thrive Global interview, Back to the Future, when they had, the hoverboard and that kind of thing. Now we're in this stage where we're looking to the future of avatars. And it's already happening in things like psychotherapy. People that are battling with PTSD, they put them into a virtual environment and let them re-experience it. To a certain extent, it's already happening, isn't it? I mean,
it's amazing. I spoke to Dr. Tachi from Tokyo University. He's obviously Japanese. He invented the concept of avatar back in 1980. And funny, it was an amazing conversation. He's pretty old man right now, but he still call avatars teleexistence.
Teleexistence, I love it.
The most inspiring thing was he said, well, Sergey, I never thought I can invent something like that until I thought about human eyes. So, it's obviously a pretty complex system, but what it does is to use human eye system to absorb, all the light and all the visual pieces around the world and combine 3D picture of surrounding into 2D picture inside your eyes. And then he said, if Mother Nature can do that, then I thought, I can do teleexistence. I can do human avatar, right? And
that's
the easiest
amazing.
thing to imagine human avatar is what we've seen in James Cameron movie in Avatar. In fact, actually, tomorrow, I'm speaking to Peter Jackson from New Zealand, who actually was working with Cameron on Avatar. And he's now doing a lot of virtual stuff. And he's obviously the man behind success of Hobbits movies. Very famous man.
Yes.
Amazing person. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow. How
this is
exciting.
my final interview for my book. I actually agreed with my publisher that because of Peter Jackson, they will make an exception. So that's exciting. And so again, Horizon 3, we shouldn't be scared of that. We just need to be mindful that there's more technological developments and breakthrough are on the horizon.
I think it's fantastic, and and it's so important that we embrace that. And as you say, it's frightening if we don't understand, but that's why we have to learn and develop the technology to get into that. So it's to keep our minds open. I think that's very important in as humans. We've got to realize we've got to keep growing and not be frightened and keep moving forward. So that's just, it's fascinating. I mean, it's absolutely, I can't wait to read the interviews, and that's so exciting. You're interviewing Peter Jackson tomorrow. That's just fantastic. Okay, let's talk about quick and simple everyday longevity habits that could help one live a longer and healthier life. Because I know you've got your little 6-minute thing that you do in the morning, which I love. You talk about that little thing, and then you've got a lifestyle. And you've obviously changed your lifestyle. And you're a dad of 4. I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids, so I can relate to the busyness of life there. So yeah.
I have 4 kids, and then when some of my peers tell me, "Oh, Sergey, I have like midlife crisis," and I'm like, "What? Midlife crisis?"
I haven't got time for that.
I woke up like 4:30 a.m. this morning because 2 of my kids they just wanted my attention during the sleeps. So I'm like, I have nothing to do with midlife crisis. So about my morning routine, it's literally 6 minutes. It usually takes 8. And there's a book called Magic Morning. I'm fortunate I forgot the name of the author, but I'm very grateful. I think it's to her. So it's basically just bring in different activities, even like for 1 minute in your morning. It's just amazing. So the first meeting is just listen to the silence. Just amazing, right? And then you visualize, your success or the happiness of your kids or how your life going to be beautiful. Then you do affirmation that today is going to be great. Today's like the most amazing day of my life. This kind of things. Then you do physical activity for like 1 minute, whatever the activity is.
Yeah.
And there's an advice to dedicate 1 minute to the diary. I'm pretty lazy on that, so I never do that. But I just do like 1 minute of reading. Yeah. And so I have quite a bit of books in my personal space at home. So that's my piece for thought. But in terms of the everyday habit, if you go to sergeyyoung.com, there's just a lot of free
I love
content.
that. Yeah, that's a really nice.
Yeah. I don't think you can see it. Yeah.
Maybe you can see it now.
There's a lot of infographics there. Yeah, there's like 10 longevity choices that each of us can do. Again, this is all free content. Everything I do in longevity is for free. So I have like zero commercial agenda, apart from my dream to change 1 billion lives in a positive way.
Well, thank you for that. That's really amazing. And I love that. I was looking at that. It's a really nice infographic, and it's so simple and so logical, and it's brilliant. Brilliant. So talk us through it.
Yeah. So in terms of most important things, again, annual checkup, it's super important. Then second bucket is about bad habits. Obviously, smoking is super bad. Smoking is like cancer lottery. And it's statistically minus 10 years of your happy and healthy life.
Minus 10 years if you smoke,
Using seatbelts, applying zero alcohol tolerance policy. Even if in your state you can have a glass of wine and drive, just never do this because statistically it's super dangerous. So this will add another 2 years to your lifespan. And so then we're moving into the third bucket, which is diet. And just a lot of diets. I was just actually in my book, I had 10 pages dedicated to the diet. I was just trying to squeeze a lot of content until I actually gave up on that and I said to publisher, I have a book at home about celery juice, which 250 pages long.
About celery juice, 250 pages. So what are they saying?
Can give you the opportunity to write 250 pages. By the way, I love this book. So how I can squeeze the whole diet advice into 10 pages? So I give up on that. So, but my number one advice is there's just a lot of disagreements in academic world what extends your life, but there's only one agreement that decreasing your calories intake by 15 to 25, 30% extends your life. So that's amazing. Definitely. And it can be, as low as 2 or 3 extra years, and it can be as high as plus, 7
totally
or 10
agree with you.
happy years. But that's amazing. So as many vegetables as possible, and it should be like super plant-based. You don't need to be religious about animal and fish protein. I try to avoid it. And if I have it pretty rarely, then it's from organic sources or it's wild fish. So it's
farm
not
to table.
It's not set up
processed
with,
and modern American diet.
antibiotics, hormones, bacteria, etc. So that's basically about the food, and obviously importance of fasting, drinking the water. Also, so the fourth bucket is about physical activity. Get any variable and make sure you do 10,000 steps a day. So that's amazing. And obviously, if you have extra time, you can do cardio, you can do a lot of different stuff, but like doing 10,000 steps a day is already good enough. And then our favorite bucket, which is peace of mind, and this is your sleep. So what I do, there was an amazing book. Probably have it on my bookshelf. Yeah, it's called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. And after, when I read this book, I changed my approach to sleep completely. So, and what I do, my rule is I spend 8 hours in bed, which means 7 hours of sleeping. And I use tracker to measure, just to create like a feedback loop of what is the influence, different things on the quality of my sleep. Two biggest influences is actually alcohol and coffee. So that's why I try to avoid the consumption of it every day. I still enjoy a glass of red wine on Friday or on Saturday, but obviously not every day. So sleep is important. Meditation is important because what it does on biomarker level, it does decrease the level of cortisol, which is stress hormone in our body. And having the consistently high level of cortisol is super negative for our longevity. So that's why, meditation is important. And just, be a good person, being grateful, doing act of kindness, giving back to the world, give social support, embrace diversity, do good things. It's super important. And it makes us happy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to add 10 years to your life if you are unhappy about life and if you are in fragile state.
It's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I love it.
So that's 10 longevity choices. Go to sergeyyoung.com and download as many infographics as you want.
And they're absolutely beautiful. And please take note that it's Sergey Young. You didn't just make that name up. You actually are Sergey Young, and you believe in staying young forever. So that's the way to do it. So, well, I love that. And, I've just done a recent clinical trial over last year, and just some of the things you're talking about, it was popping in my mind as you were talking. Each of those things we saw when people manage their mind, because that's my area of expertise is managing mind. When you manage your mind, you then manage your diet, your exercise, your lifestyle. All those things come into place. And we saw people able to manage anxiety and depression by an increased factor of 81%. So they were 81% more in control of anxiety and depression, etc. And then that affected things like the telomeres. And so we saw in as short as 9 weeks that you can actually strengthen and lengthen your telomeres with mind management, which increases cellular health, which increases longevity. So if you live what you're talking about, the science behind what you're talking about, I've seen this in my clinical trials. We can increase our longevity and our cell health if we are managing our mind to manage all those lifestyle factors, because it's a decision, as you say, to eat the healthy food, to make a plan for your sleeping, to drink alcohol in a more moderated way, and although to eat healthy food when you are eating plant-based or organic, etc., those are decisions you're making with your mind. So it's mind management. So I love it. I love what you said.
People think it's boring stuff. So I had to invent this all 200 years to grab.
Then they pay attention.
So when I sit with academics and they're just looking at me like, Sergey, we respect what you're doing, but do you understand that it's just impossible to live 200 years? And I'm always saying, yes, this is my marketing tool. This is my attention grabbing thing. So when I shock people with 200 years, I do believe in that. But that's like when you repeat something for like 1,000 times in the course of a few years, of course you start to believe in it. And I said, I do understand that. But like when I grab people's attention with 200 years figure,
then they'll listen.
Oh my goodness, what is that? So then I can feed this 10 longevity choices that they can do tomorrow morning.
Good.
Because otherwise, like in the first few years, I started with like, oh, come on, you should stop smoking. You should do more physical exercise. And I'm like, come on, Sergey. We
all know that, but we're not going to do it.
Yeah. So that's why, I've created this whole 3 horizons to get people excited about Horizon 3 and Horizon 2. And then they ask like what I can do today. And then I just feed my boring stuff.
It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant, though, because you, as you say, you get people seeing the future, and then that already shifts the mindset, because the research shows very clearly that as soon as you shift your mind, you've changed the structure of your brain, you've changed the neuropeptides, you've changed your genetic expression. So by people saying, hey, maybe I can live, or maybe not 200, but I could at least live a decent life till maybe 90 or 95 or whatever the case may be. And then it shifts how your body functions, because your body and brain just respond to how your mind is functioning. So what you're helping people to really do is to get the correct mindset towards life, which then increases longevity. Because if we're feeling sick and awful, what kind of contribution can we make to the world? But if you're feeling healthy,
we just draw down resources. Yeah,
exactly. We just draw down resources as opposed to being a resource. And each of us can be a resource, which is so fantastic. Well, I love that. What do you think are some dangerous longevity hacks people should avoid?
Yeah, I have. It's again
another great
longevity toxins. Yeah,
I love it.
So we discussed some of that. So it's obviously smoking. It's processed food. So if you look at some of the studies, if you switch from kind of raw foods or prepared at home, home cooked food, to processed food, it actually adds 500 calories to your diet every day.
Incredible.
This is because processed food is processed, so it's easier to chew, and it's much quicker in your stomach. So, and then you need to have more and more calories. Yeah, to satisfy that. So that's the other thing. Well, the other problem is processed food usually have much higher glycemic index, and it has more additives, right? And again, I'm a chemical engineer by my first degree. I'm believing that things that we eat should be produced by Mother Nature rather than huge chemical giants.
I love that.
Funny enough, actually, the biggest illusion that we have that eating healthy is actually much more expensive than eating a processed food that we have in supermarkets. There was a study, unfortunately I don't remember the university, that, I mean, if you do plant-based with certain components of healthy animal and fish meat, it's actually $950 less a year. Because, I mean, look at the vegetables, right? You can really create the premium version of tomatoes or cucumbers or salad leaves. I mean, they all pretty similar. I mean, of course, you can go for organic. And when I have an opportunity, I always go for organic, farm grown, or even local. But these are vegetables, right?
Yeah.
So I like that.
I'm so glad you said that, Sergey. I'm so glad you said that in my book that I wrote on food, called Think and Eat Yourself Smart. That's one of the things I say, that we have this. It is expensive, unfortunately, but it's not that expensive if you really work it out. And you work out from your local farms. And there's so many ways of planning. Use your mind to plan the...
And this is before you count the impact of this food on your health. So you factor in your healthcare cost in the future and your loss of capacity and productiveness and your ability
mental health.
Just be part of the family. I mean, it's obviously it's going into negative economic territory. The other funny thing that I was just looking through my infographic here is what we have as a condiments or sauces. I just went to one of the famous coffee shop store. I can mention their name, obviously, and I bought really healthy salad. I mean, it's pure vegetables. It was probably 160 or 200 calories, not a lot. And I love it. And I thought, okay, well, this is great. And they give me the 50 milliliters of sauce. Sauce was, I think it was 400 or 450 calories.
That's
so
crazy.
It was twice as much as the huge bowl of
there was
salad.
no nutrition in this. In that probably.
And I was switching to olive oil, specifically virgin olive oil, is just great. It's everything you need. So it's just small funny things that we need to be mindful of. But otherwise, it's such an enjoyable life to switch to the healthy lifestyle and just becoming much more positive person. And you love people love you. I mean, this is why we were born.
I love it. I love that so much. It's really fantastic. Let's switch to our current climate with COVID. What advice can you share for people during this time as they're stuck at home, feeling like they're losing time? I love that because people, that's a concept of, we all know that things are changing, whatever, but the concept of people feel like they're losing time. And that could be the elderly, it could be those that have just graduated, it could be kids at school, whatever. And their goals and plans. What advice could you?
So on a practical level, I think there's an opportunity to socialize. I've done so many Zoom parties. I mean, obviously, it's not the same when you meet someone person to person, but sometimes we just don't have a choice. So that's one. It's an opportunity to study, to find a course on Mind Valley which was founded by my very good friend Vishnu Lakiani, or go to masterclass. It doesn't matter, or go to Udemy, Coursera, and study something. I know quite a few people who actually learn new profession in the course of this lockdown. And, I was reading books. I was actually writing the book during the quarantine.
Me too. I was writing my book too then.
It was quiet time. And listen to podcasts I'm pretty sure Caroline has, more content for you in the past and in the future. So but I think if you ask about what are my best piece of writing that I've done, this is actually my article on Thrive called Five Life Lessons from Coronavirus. I'm really proud of it.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it is about just, creating positive thinking about this, pretty unfriendly and dangerous circumstances. And, it's learn to embrace uncertainty, is just to realize how fragile our life is. And therefore we just learning what matters the most, our relatives, parents, our kids, our friends, any small act of kindness that you can do today. And I think lockdown, I know I'm positive, crazy guy, so you need to stop me on that. But I think it's just an opportunity to rediscover ourselves.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And final piece, and I switch to plant-based food. I mean, when you sit at home, right, there's no need to consume red wine every evening. I mean, I lost 5.5 kilos. I don't know how many pounds of that, during this, 5 months of lockdown. So that's been amazing transformation for me. And then finally, it's also realizing that it's Mother Nature talking to us. And that's why I am very sympathetic about people who just saying, Sergey, you know what? I think today's world is awful and I don't want to extend my life and I respect that and I'm actually developing my TEDx talk called Morality of Immortality. And the main message of this TEDx talk is about before we embrace radical longevity or immortality. I'm not a big fan of immortality, but nevertheless, we need to change the world. We need to change our relationship with Mother Nature, right? Because if we're going to be living for 200 years, you can really afford to put plastic in the ocean because it's not going to be your grandkids who will sort it out. It's going to be you.
Exactly.
So, I think it's just not sure about your place, but in my region, the biodiversity, like the number of birds that I've seen, has been amazing during lockdown. So at the moment we decrease the human pressure on the Mother Nature responds almost immediately. So
exactly.
In a way, it was very painful exercise, specifically for some of the families that I know very closely. But I think there's always an opportunity to draw positive conclusion and positive outcome from that.
I agree with you. I often say as well that something especially related to what I teach, and that's about mind, as you know, is it's people for a lot. We've been so busy and so fast for so many years with the advances of technology, which are great, but the negative side is this hurry sickness. So this lockdown has given us a chance to actually start thinking deeply again. And that's something that's also changed over the last 30 years, and it's had a very negative impact on our mental health. So so in terms of mental health, I believe mental health is improving because you actually have to face the stuff inside of you before you can heal. You have to kind of deal with the hard stuff before you can move. And we've been very good at suppressing that over these years. So this lockdown's given people a chance to look inside, and it's scary. So people are not sure how to react. But it's also teaching people to find the depth of the depth of who they are as humans. So it's changing us as humans and we're thinking differently. So I think if we can grab that and move forward, like you say, we can actually turn this around and become more positive about how we go into the future. It's a wake-up call. So it's really, I love what you said there. So how have you seen mental health and mind management play into longevity? I mean, those are my areas of expertise, and I'm really fascinated because I know you know a lot about this as well and think quite deeply about this.
This is where we started our conversation. And I think it's very unfair that mental health, and I call it peace of mind, it's almost like the last topic.
I know.
Which coming up when we talk about our health. And that's pretty unfair. And look at this. I was just preparing for the conference. I'm speaking next week. What I've discovered is up to 70 million of Americans. It's almost like 25% of the population are suffering some sort of mental health problems, right?
It's actually more. It's pretty much 100%. Everyone's battling. It's a human thing. People are all battling. It's and you get extremes, obviously, and the extremes have increased with COVID, but everyone battles with their mind, so it's a human thing.
That's true. So whatever figure you take, it's just massive. It's like 10 or 100 millions of people, right? At least in the US, right? And you look at all around the world. So I do think that health span means not only healthy body, but also healthy mind. And they just interrelated.
Yeah.
And you can arrive to this through different angles, right? Speaking about cortisol, how it's basically eats the space from the other much more useful hormones, right?
Exactly.
And our body was never created to handle constant stress. Our body was created, you see the bear, you're scared, you run away, you have high cortisol level, and then it goes down in 10 or 15 minutes. We're just running from the bear.
You're up here.
From
You're
the
running
first to the last day of our life. This is dangerous. It just damages our body. So that's why, I'm actually so happy that different kind of technologies are arriving to help us in terms of, sorting out sleep, mental health problems, support meditation, decreasing cortisol level, and making us healthy people, not only on body terms, but in the mind terms. So I love it. And it's whatever you do, it's like the app that you were talking about, the app which can help with people to sort out them, mental problem or mind management, meditation app, or this Muse that I use for meditation, different sleeping devices or wearables, artificial intelligence bot that can complement your psychotherapist when he or she is not available and support you, right? Electronic diaries, you name it. I love it, and I love the fact that we can use this channel. Remember this, our 8 seconds attention span. The fact that we attach to our gadget, actually to our own benefits, to making us not only physically but mentally healthy.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. You've said that so beautifully. And just in my most recent clinical trials, we trialed my app. So all the techniques that I've done over the years, we put into technology just to help people to manage exactly like you're saying, between seeing the psychotherapist or the counselor, or just you've got to live with yourself. How do you manage living with yourself with all that day-to-day stuff? And you mentioned cortisol, and cortisol at the right levels, we all know is good for us. And we showed that with mind management, if you don't have mind management, your cortisol levels, as you said, shoot through the roof. But with mind management, you can actually bring your cortisol levels down to a healthy level where you improve cardiovascular health and prevent dementia and grow your telomeres and bring down your homocysteine levels. And it happens almost as you're managing your mind, that is happening. So and that's where technology, I agree with you, is absolutely fantastic, because we've always got it with us, so we can use it. So it's fantastic. So how do you manage your mental health when feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or anxious? I know you do your 6 minutes, but what happens that's the morning, during the day, and as life happens, all the acute things that happen and the
so obviously physical activity, I'm doing a lot of calls when I'm walking, and obviously, looking at the nature, or just, walking, just doing physical exercise helps to relieve the stress. It's obviously meditating every morning. And it's also, it's sleeping well. Again, as we said, 8 hours in the bed, which means 7 hours of sleep. But it's also, I wanted to talk to you and to our audience about something different. It's just having a sense of purpose in life. Think about it. I spent, this is actually from Shaolin Monastery in China. This is legendary monastery. So I spent a week there last year, and I was so amazed that every time you find someone who's like a monk or work in a spiritual organization or dedicate his or her life to helping other people, they're just shining. They're so bright. They're so healthy. They're so balanced. They're so in harmony. So having a sense of purpose in life, which is not about money. It's just about giving back to society, giving back to doing one act of kindness every day, however small is that. It helps a lot. So I love it. And funny enough, I came there for 7 days for a lot of questions. And for all my questions, I've got only one answer. Sergey, you're thinking too much.
Wow. Overthinking. You just got to be. That was a huge lesson, I'm sure. But you certainly are exuding that joy to people, it's very obvious. Just, I'm not physically in the same room with you, but I can connect with you and I can see that you just generating that generosity and love of humanity. And it's just all out of it. It just shines out of you. So you're achieving that. So I want to thank you for what you're doing for the world and your incredible work. And I'd love to keep contact and have you back again. And we got a promise to do an interview when we both 200, or when we, let's say when we've hit 100. How about that? We'll do before then, but we'll have to do some before then because there's lots of interesting things to talk about. But you and I are going to commit when we are both in our 90s or 100 or something. We're going to have an interview. Agreed. And we'll play this one back and we'll say that's from X amount of years ago and this is now. And look, we're still doing it. Sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you and your work and get your... I know you mentioned earlier on, but just mention again.
Yeah, so the easiest way is just to go to sergeyyoung.com and sign up for our newsletters. Yeah, and obviously, whenever book going to be released, you'll have an opportunity to pre-order the book. But otherwise, I think that like the biggest takeaway from today's conversation for me would be the opportunity for everyone to change his or her life today or tomorrow morning. Just change something. Try to live healthy life for one day, for 1 week, for 1 month, and you'll just enjoy it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. It's been incredible. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Caroline. Thanks to everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Cheers.